Okay, so we're carrying on with the Monthly Gamedev Challenge 8 that we started. We're looking at trying to make an input system for mini games. The idea here that we learn a bit more about the input system and allow us to be able to set it up so if we want to press GHT in order to succeed in some game, whichever the context, that we can do that. And that's what we're going to be trying to build up our understanding around in order to create. And maybe we can use something like that in our in Ludden Diary that's coming up in 2 months. Hello there, Spacey. Spacey says happy birthday.
Thanks! You should ask her about the banana.
The purple one?
No,
they're meant to taste a bit like raspberries, but they didn't. Well, they tasted a little different, but was it a placebo effect? You talked on the Discord about it. Remember that time you read my Discord?
Look.
She used to care. I'm only joking. She's done sad faces at me now. Ruined the day. Okay, so let's get back into it. I basically just did a bit of research last time, so I want to make an input system like that, and we did a little bit of research. I've got some like what I want up here, but I read that before streaming. Let's go through the research. So we had an input, a player input U object, spawned on the client only, lives on the player controller. This is part of what we researched last time we were streaming. We also, it says that it has structs that hold the action mappings for the axis. For the actions and the axes. We then had the input component. So these components, every actor has a member to store an input component. There's a member called, or a flag called auto receive input is set. The input will be enabled. When enabled, it will create an input component if needed and add it to the input stack on the owning player controller. Those components link axis mappings and action mappings to the functions. So those action mappings now are stored in the player input object, I guess. And then the binding is done via this input component. Multiple input components can be created as they are attached to any actor. A stack of these input components exists with the player controller to determine which input component takes priority. So the most recent activated actor will take the highest priority over other actors. Following that, or the whole priority is so actors, controllers, level scripts, and pawns. So that means any of those can have any input bindings on them. But if you have multiple alive at the same time, then they'll be in a stack and it will read them in that order. A player controller class is in charge of organizing the input stack, building the stack every frame if needed. The stack is simply an array of U input components, which are ordered based on priority. You can add an input component to the stack by calling push input component. Bindings can be set to consume input, meaning the input will no longer be seen by any other input component further down the stack. Having the flag B block input set to true will consume the input. This is per binding, I think. By default, the input will consume. So when setting the bindings, you can turn this off as follows: input component bind action, and then you do dot B consume input equals false. Setting up bindings can be done by accessing the input component directly using the input component bind action /axis functions, and we have those normally in the player controller. So that would be using this controller based one. So if we had any actors that had an input component stack as well, or an input component on it, it would be added onto the stack and be a higher priority one, I think. So we'll do some code to test that out, I think. So on the player controller, we went through and followed the logic of what actually happens. So we're currently in that player input, but when the player controller has a player set, remember the player controller always exists in Unreal, and you'll be assigned player characters. So the player controller persists, but if you die or you spawn as a different type of character, it'll give you a new character, but the controller just possesses these pawns. That's why we call them pawns. It's the whole analogy of pawns that you possess and control. So, first off, we set the player, and that will call init input system. This will create the player input object, and that's where we are at the moment. So this will call something called force rebuild key mappings, which reads in the map from the input settings config file, which is what we set up in the project settings. I mean, let's try and press play, and then we can actually have a look at that too. Process player input function, which is called by the player controller on tick. So the player controller on tick will go into the input component and call this. No, it's the player input object. It's not an input component. I need to be careful with my words. Not a bit of an earache at the moment, so sorry if I keep reaching for my ear. There's an array key state map that keeps the current view of each key. This listens for events, and in the process player input function, it will read these events and do some processing on the various axis inputs if needed. It then walks over the input stack. Bindings are rebuilt if needed. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So by here, now we walk over the stack, and let's see what it does with that. Because is it going to be firing events so that other things that care about these, when we bind to them, can know about them? That's what I'm half expecting. Let's have a look then. So it has this input component here. Hello there, Hexa. How are you doing? Good day. So this is for everything in the stack. So does it build the key map based on that particular input component? Where did I say it builds the key map? No. So there's a function in here. Was it conditional? Oh, maybe it is this one. I enjoyed the pancakes. I enjoyed them. They were not they're not quite as like fluffy and that as we've done before. Both of us have done some before, and they're a little more like soft and rise up a little bit more. But I kept calling crepes pancakes, so I mean, there's issues already. But yeah, they were nice, both varieties. Thank you for asking. Did you eat much yesterday? I don't think it's an official day or anything in America, but maybe you did something nice. I'm feeling exhausted as well, so if I sound tired, sorry, people. So it does build conditional. Yeah, we need to have a look at that function. So what does this do? It goes through. Cached key to action info. Do we have one of those? Don't even know what that is. Okay, it's a T array. Don't know how that is used in here. Oh. Cached info. No, we go over each one here. I have no idea how it's used. Well, I'm gonna have to put some music on or something as well, because I'm struggling. Everything's distracting at the moment. Might make the text a bit bigger and stuff as well. You're doing nothing wrong. You're just sitting there doing that. You've done nothing wrong. I'm just. You've done nothing wrong. Okay, we are on Hexadonut. You said kind of like tortilla is bread. Oh, in the same, like a crepe is a... Well, I can only do what my mother told me. I ate normal amounts yesterday, had a long day, mentally drained lately. How is work going? You actually able to do work these days? I did not. I just put music on Hexa. No phone calls here. Just to distract. Is CH in Welsh just the purring cat noise? No. No. It's is the noise. So it's like chwarae, or chwilio. But it's no I'm never making it's different to So chwarae archfarchnad. Archfarchnad. Yeah. Archfarchnad. Archfarchnad. But hopefully that noise helps somewhat. You're sort of doing work now, mostly training, computer sort of work. Okay. You're slowly getting there. Our R is that same noise. Okay, but my cat purring is not a more of a that's different to but it may be similar to your noise at least. But anyway, okay. Alicia's purring for those hearing little noises in the background. It's not a little pigeon who lives in the house, no. It's a wild Alicia Griffin. Okay, so let's think. It tries to build up this key map. We don't know what this cache key to action info is, if I'm honest with you. I don't know how it gets set. We've looked at where it comes up. And yeah, I can't see. I mean, we actually remove things from it here. Alright, and then we add stuff here. Okay, so is this all in the same? Okay, I think this is the... We add and remove stuff in this function. And then we iterate it, get actions bound to keys. Okay. And we iterate over those. So it's going to be a key to an action mapping sort of thing by the looks of it. Hey there, Roids. Sorry. Indeed. Okay, so it will go through all the ones in there already. And it will... I mean, we need to have a look what this is, because I don't know. It has a player input. This is the reference to the player input that we've looked at already, I think, right? This player input thing? Yeah, okay. So it has access to one of those. And then it... And he's just laughing because she's trying to be quiet and making the most noise ever. How you doing, Royce? You okay? To store runtime cache to make the key to action lookups faster. So we have this input. Key to action map. Into key map. Okay. So we assign the player input at this point. Okay. And then we, in case, I don't know if that player input would ever change, but that's okay. Oh, no, we're making sure it's the same player input. Yeah, I don't know why that would not be true, but... Oh, actually, no, yeah. So if our key map is equal to our player input get key map build index. I have no this. I'm guessing, does it make an index each time to try and be rebuilt and get yeah, I'm assuming it's just it'll rebuild it if needs, and there's some clever stuff going on there to, or intricate stuff to stop it rebuilding if not. Okay, so then we're just going to remove things if they are... Oh, actually, no, key map build. Okay, this is per index if it is still in there. I can't I half understand. I'm not really struggling to follow it properly. Okay, so then if this is still null pointer, is it? So by here, this would be if there's no cached key to action infos. Then we add. I have no idea what add defaulted means. I think it just sets it up, I'm guessing. And then we go through each of the action bindings. And then it okay, here it gets the keys for actions for this particular action name. That gives us an array of them. Is that because you can have multiple binds? So then it calls this build conditional key mappings again. Isn't that already, baby? I'm so confused. I thought we were already in this function. No. It just returns the actions for each key, I'm guessing. So if there's any mappings to it, it'll return them. Oh, we still haven't finished this. I don't know what action bind. Oh, we do know what the action bindings are. Oh, who's that?
Neil.
Sorry?
Neil. Yeah, it's Spacey merch. Where's your Spacey merch? We can buy the same shirt and we can wear it together and be twins.
You can tell Spacey if you want. You can talk. What you just okay, hello. Do I do video meetings work? Yes. Daily. How come you ask? So what does this hold? This hold f input action binding. Which will have the name of the what needs to be pressed, I guess, and what it does. Is there like the event somewhere in here maybe? I'm not sure.
So I was making a, although it doesn't pick up. Oh, I was making a comment to Dan about how like all of his coworkers popped on the video, like when they were hanging out as like a what do you call it? Like on a Friday night after work or whatever, and two people were on just like the Discord call, but they were just audio. And then when Dan hops in and puts his video on, and suddenly everybody's scrambling to put video on. And I was really surprised at how many were like willing to just jump on video instead of just keeping it audio.
Hmm? We try and promote doing videos if you can. I think that there's a few people who like never tend to, but I'd say it's around half in our scrum. Probably around 8 people do it. I do if I used to not do it if I had my camera like in the kitchen doing cooking streams and stuff, and I didn't go and set it up. But now that I do the cooking streams very often, I can just leave it in there. Well, it's also not just that. It was also I'd use the cam to stream in here as well. Or Alicia got here as well. So hey there, Capamangos, nice to see you. I think it's a nice like. I think it's probably an important thing to do, in my opinion. I'm sure people will disagree, but I mean, you see people face to face normally in work. It helps maintain some more humane element to that you're working with people rather than just names, and to give you a sense of togetherness, even though you're not together. I think it's important anyway. So good question, Kappa. So we do choose a new topic most months to have a look into, and I'm looking into inputs in Unreal Engine this month. So my aim is not to make anything fancy or a game. It's to basically to try and make a little input manager so that I can do a mini game, for example, where I say, "Hey, I want this thing to pop up on the screen, and you need to tap P 10 times in order to kill it." And then it'll do it. So something that can track those, where you can give it a set of rules, like you have to press this X amount of times, or you have to press these keys in this specific order. Those sort of things I would like to be able to try and set up. So we're just doing a bit of research first. That makes sense. It's a teleworker, so I don't know what most of these people even look like. Yeah, indeed. That's another reason I do it as well, is to try and help new people feel like they're working with other people as well, you know, rather than just a bunch of names who are can be intimidating sometimes, right? I think people need to also. I think it's important for people to have reminders that we're all kind of similar. We're all in the same weird situation, and sometimes seeing each other in normal things, you know, wearing pajamas or being scruffy or having a cuppa or whatever it be, eating your cereal in the meeting, something like that. It's like fine. Tends to be turned off after a short while, usually video when new people. Oh, I'm one of the when we have big meetings with like 30, 40 people with the people we co-develop with. There's normally like around 10 of us will have the cam on, and then the rest won't. Like I always do, but I always think it's good for me as well because we're working with a large studio, and there's no harm being memorable in a way, if that makes sense, or just people knowing you exist. I mean by that, not like memorable in any divine sense. Okay, so it seems to just go through and get all of the. This is where it'll get the index then. Okay, so it seems to just go through and collect all the bindings on this particular input component. So where was it actually called from? I can't even remember. Font size is stressing me. I'm trying, like, it's too small to focus on, but then I can't see much on the screen, and that's annoying. Oh. Only we started building up your own library of utility scripts, make prototyping right. Yeah, it's, for stuff for like game jams is really useful. But for me, it's mainly I just want to learn a bit about how this stuff works. We had a lunchtime meet with video suggested where we randomly split into rooms to simulate lunch tables. You can choose to not join, but it is just a few minutes at noon. I think that's we have like a tea time at 3 o'clock where there's a channel you can jump in and there's only a handful of people who'll turn up. But we tend to have like we have a morning scrum and then the devs as well have like a end of day catch up where we mainly like if there's any issues we're stuck on that we want to like throw around ideas with the team and we do that. But then if no one has any questions, we'll just like lurk in there while working and chat about stuff. So that helps have some build up of like social stuff, you know. Where was this being called from again? I think it was back in the, was it in the player input I was looking? Yeah, so on this it builds the key, so let's try and make some notes, otherwise it's half hour wasted. I've already made last session, great. Okay, let's try and, I'm gonna have to talk through what it's doing just because I can't focus at all on this. So with keys with events, it wants to, if it is consumed, I don't know what that, if it's not consumed, or is it the value isn't, I don't know, how does this key with event, how does it, what does the state even have? Where's the consumed in here? If this key has been consumed by an input component, it should be ignored for further component. Okay, so I'm guessing if is marked as consumed, it gets popped down to the rest of the stack. Because that's what I was wondering, like, how is it being flagged as consumed? But that makes sense. I still don't quite know what this keys with events. When is that made? Within this process input stack. Is that where we even started? I'm getting so lost in this. How did we get to where we were in it? Yeah, it's not the tick. We haven't gone into the tick. Oh, well, it does say. I need to go back to where we were walking over this input stack. I don't know where we were. Here. Okay, so it's built it up back here. Okay, so by here, keys to consume. It adds it to this input, so keys to consume then probably gets checked later. Reset, but at the start, does it get checked? Consume key. Yeah, it comes up quite often, if I'm honest with you. But essentially, I think keys to consume gets added to something persistent. Hey there, Lentil Dragon Stew. Lentil Stew Dragon, sorry. How you doing? It's nice to see you. Tomod, you gotta go. Thank you very much, dude. Have a good evening. You're always welcome to Distracted. No problem. Not just for jams. I think it's generally a good idea, like you said, to learn. Plus, work out the kinks to have a good foundation to work on top. Really enables you. Oh, to work on top of like. Yeah, it is. I don't think I've really got a good. I don't have that. I don't do enough dev, to be honest. Well, I don't finish enough dev. Yeah, you messed my name up as Revenge. That is fine. You can call me Games Honest Dan. I'm tired. Forgive me, Lentil Stew Dragon. What's wrong? What's wrong? Oh. Just saw you doing this. Ah! Ah! We have gifted subs, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Lentil Stew Dragon. I very much appreciate it. Capamango says hi as well, Elisha. So, Capamangos, you've got yourself a sub, thanks to Lentil Stew Dragon. We also have Tim Budeau, or Budet, sorry, I always say his name wrong. Royd Scratz on one as well. We have Elsirin, who we've spoken to quite recently, actually. And TS Jost, who sometimes looks around. He's from Tim's community as well. So thank you very much. Tim lurks. I don't know if he's always connected via chat, but he does come in and hang out sometimes as well. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. You enjoy the pig bog. Or pig Komodo. You never know anymore, do you? Anyway, right, we're going to crack on. I'll be annoyed with myself if I haven't achieved anything. I'm going to spend my evening doing this, and I need to get something out of it as well. It's just there's so much to try and take in. It's overwhelming.
You got this.
Sorry?
You got this.
Thank you. Oh, so I was going to write about consumed keys. There's a unique array of these within the player input. Which, is used to set, I guess, is consumed on keys lower down in the stack. It seems that way anyway. How did your day go, Lentil Stew? Okay, so we build the keys, we get the actions and add them to potential actions by the look of it. And we reset them here. What's the... So, we go through all keys with events and we check, has it been consumed yet? And if it hasn't been consumed from the current input controller, we get that. But what does getting do in this context? Is there a reference to the actions is out? Okay. So we add them to potential actions, then we iterate over them, and then we get a chord for those actions and add them to found chords. And found chords gets used later by the looks of it. That's me. You're looking after lunch at the code I wrote before lunch. Okay, well, I mean, that means that you're doing your job, I guess, right? And then writing it and forgetting about it. Or were you trying to understand what you did in the morning? Was it one of those? Okay, so that goes through chords later on. We're not actually doing that at the moment, but we do add found chords into here. Okay, then we reset that actions that we just created. And then we go over all of the key bindings. And then we get chords for key. I get chords for action and get chords for key. I don't know. Oh, so action binding would be... I guess you can bind... Can you bind for like an action name rather than a key? I'm really not too sure. Beluria, hello there. How you doing? Oh, you tried to understand what you did in the morning. Okay, maybe that's a less wonderful day for you then. Did you understand by the time you went home or stopped working at home probably? Okay, so it then goes through all of the found chords. And those key details here. So, okay, it finds it within our action key map. Okay, this is too much, I think, to try and actually take everything in. Essentially doing some logic to track chords. Chords being like multiple keys being pressed. And then it checks is for each found chord, if there's a delegate bound for it, then we want to fire that delegate. I'm hoping. No. No. It just adds it to this non-access delegates. If it's bound, I guess that's just instead of adding it if there's nothing associated with it. You redid everything, oh dear. My day was a bit derailed today. Something came up with wondering if something I'd made would work in a certain online situation, and then I had to kind of work out the best way to kind of try and fix that. So I was meant to be working on another task today, but ended up getting wrapped up in that. So, Poker Badly, nice to see you, by the way. Okay, we have a bit for touch bindings. We're going to just assume I don't want to read through all of that. So with gestures, it handles that stuff. And then we run through the game's axis bindings. It seems to track whether the game is paused, which is interesting. So then we get in the axis if AB, so if it's bound, then we add it there. I guess, yeah, you'd only bind one thing to each axis, so that makes sense. I'm missing the snow. Found Will Smith out in the snow this year. The key was I had to look for the Fresh Prince. I said, yo ho to Bel Air. So everyone knows someone in their childhood who could sing that whole song and was too proud of it. Okay, so we seem to just be adding to... Yeah, delegates. Non-access delegates. Then we have access delegates as well. And then stop traversing the stack. So if we block input, all input has been consumed by this input component, then we need to get rid of... that's after we've looped over everything, I guess, right? Okay, and then we do this after finishing the whole component so we don't consume a key while there might be more bindings to it. That makes sense. So if you're pressing G and Shift and G does two different things or whatever, that it won't get rid of them until it's checked everything it could be used against. And then it goes over them and consumes them. So what does consuming the key do here? Consume key. Oh, all it does is say it's consumed. But doesn't it depend on if the... I guess the keys to consume probably only got added earlier if there is consume input. Yeah, okay, that's fine, that's fine. That makes sense. But I'm now wondering, what do we do with it? Okay, we're still going. Now we go back over it. So I'm wondering, like, where's these delegates? Where are we actually going and doing stuff with those? Down here. Finally, okay, starting to come together. So then it goes over them again. So it builds several lists of delegates for non-access, access, and like gesture, touch input, etc. It checks all input components for does it check all of them? It does actually, doesn't it? Okay, yeah, so it checks all input components for action mappings, flagging things that are consumed, it's consumed, and exiting early or early outing if the input component itself was flagged for consuming or block all input. Okay. Then we kind of go over it again. Anyone who's joining or wondering what we're doing, we're looking at some of the base code of the Unreal Engine to try and understand how it does its input stack. It's a bit of a learning thing, and then we'll try and build on top of that. And a little bit of understanding might just help us. It's not always vital to learn all of the stuff. You shouldn't memorize all of it, but it can help you feel like you know a bit more what you're doing, and there's less black box magic kind of going on. Okay, so after this, it will go through each of them. So for the access bindings, access key bindings, and vector access bindings, it resets them. I'm not sure why it does that exactly, but okay, and then we go through all of the non-access delegates and we say if it's bound, okay, and we check if there's touch, gesture, or action delegates, and then we execute and we pass in the key. Okay. First off, we reset the access bindings. We then go through and we iterate over the delegates and fire them. and then post-process input gets called. Okay, it doesn't really do much, that's fine. I think it did something there where it zeroed the input again. So that's like that it takes the mouse back to the middle of the screen. That's kind of what's happening when you're playing a first-person shooter game, is it hides the mouse, so it tracks how much the mouse has moved, and then it'll put the mouse back in the middle of the screen. Each frame. So then the next time it measures it, it sees how far did you move it, records it, processes it, and then moves your mouse back to the middle of the screen. So it might be us seeing a little bit of how that actually happens, which is interesting. Okay, so we've kind of gone through how that works then. It's been a bit of a headache. I'm going to get myself a drink and then we're going to work out what we're going to do next with this. So I'll be back in just a moment, okay? Okay, we're back. Hello. Right, so we've looked into how the player controller handles this, and then it seems that that's what goes on. I don't think there's actually much more for us to look at with that then, in terms of the research around it. So I think we need to do a bit of experimentation with it now, possibly. So it would be good to do testing if we add, or testing adding actors with input components and see if they override the ones set up on the player controller. So let's try and do that to begin with. So I think I set up, we've got like a nothing thing here, right? But if we make our own player controller, I think we should have one by default, I think. But can't remember if it actually does it that way. So let's go in and I think I tend to work like this now. Have I got my window load layout? I think I've got a... Oh, is that how I work now? Or maybe it is. That's what I'm half thinking I had before. The world outline is up here. But I can't remember anymore. It's confusing because I have one in work as well, so I don't know what the... Oh, it probably is this I'm used to. This is more like Unity. We have the list and then you have the details once you click on something there. So we'll stick with that. Anyway, that's not what we want to do. We want to try and find... Let's open a content browser. I know we have one up here, but let's open another. Let's whack this down here. Okay, so if we make a new CPP class, so where's our little browser? That's the thing I'm looking for. I think I end up adding place actors down here as well because I don't actually use it that often. I'll just keep it as a tab and have this as a bigger screen. Okay, so in here, let's go into this. So we have a game mode. Let's make a new player controller, shall we? So it's a player controller, one of the ones in here should be. Let's go next. Let's just call this my player controller. I really don't care about the name of it for now. Let's create that. I remember when I was learning to code, that's the thing. Anything you make, you call it my this. It gets cringy the more you code. So what we want to do is to set up the inputs in here now. So I need to remember how do we do the binding. So binding input UE4 CPP. I think you pretty much get the player. There's a function that gets called on the player controller. So there's a few things that we want to probably look at here. So he's done it in his character. When a controller possesses a pawn, he calls the setup player input component. But isn't there... Oh, you can have one on the character as well, I guess, right? Okay, let's try this, I guess. We got Camdelam. Camdelam, thanks for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Hello there, Natalo, as well. Okay, countdown. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I've been stressed just trying to read through code when I'm tired. But I'm getting to a more chilled place now. I hope you get to a good place as well, Natalo. It was good to see you streaming yesterday. No, let's not cancel that. So it's interesting. They said here that it will... This function, set a player input component. When is this called? Let's have a look in our code base, shall we? Let's have a look in entire solution. Okay, so it'll be defined at a few places. Anything that implements pawn or is a pawn or subclass of, I think. but we want to see what's called. So is it from the controller on possess? That's what we're trying to find out. Oh, this. Oh, okay, so when we restart, it gets called, and the rest of them are just definitions, right? So apparently in here it does it. So now we need to, well, when does this get called? Is this on possess? Client restart implementation? We don't know that. So this is going to be client restart we want to look for rather than the implementation. By here. And this is within client retry. Yeah, I'm wondering where that is actually called. On possess. Finally, we found it here. So it is on possess. Okay, good. So the person was right what they said here. So we should make a note of that, because that is a little nugget of knowledge which we might wonder, well, why is the player character's input component being processed there? So let's add that in here. Maybe we'll just do miscellaneous. So the pawns set up, what's it called, the function? This. Okay, so this function is called after a pawn, after it is possessed by the player controller. Okay. So that's two places that we could. So, oh, we're actually meant to have a look at the different places this is actually defined. And I'm guessing there's nothing for it by default in the. So no bindings by default. Yeah, exactly what I just said. So we could have a look at network predictions, extras, flying pawn, a default pawn here, and character. We could have a look at some of those. Okay, so this does nothing. It just does a check, and if this fails, it'll crash. Okay, this does more. Here we go. So things like default pawn, for example. Is this defined? There we go. It's always nice to find, like, when you think you understand something, you're going to have a look how it works, and then you find what you're looking for to reinforce what you thought you learned. A lot of that happens when you're working with systems, like in big projects, and you're like, is this how this works? And you finally, yes, it is. I'm right. Okay, I can work with this now. Bizarro, how good to see you. Okay, well, so that was the default pawn. I guess we have the character there. Is there? Oh, no, that's fine. None of the others are CPU. I guess we have this that binds. There's a bunch of bindings in here as well. So interesting is this class. Is that? Didn't even know that was a thing. I might just ask some work friends about this. Because I've not seen that syntax before. So is this function defined in here? It is. I quite like this class. I just didn't know it was a thing that you could do. I mean, is it redefined somewhere? Yeah, it's a new object. Actually, I don't know if it is. I mean, I tried looking at it and it didn't really give me a definition. So we'll just leave it for now. But still, okay, that's good. That's good. The same with these. We can see that there's different bindings here. So they set up the names for them on a... Okay, I'm not too sure the type of character this is, but they expose it out so you can actually give them a name. I guess. Where did I find this? This class stuff. It was in here, wasn't it? Sorry, someone's asked me what class was it in. Ah, okay. I wonder, are they like overrides? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? No, I don't know if... No, you still just have the name. I just didn't know if you could bind it to like a subclass version implementation of it, but oh well. It's all good. Let's continue then. So, okay, well, this is where the bindings are, and now we know how to set up the bindings as well, because we've got some references in here, which is quite nice. So if we just go for the default pawn for now, they don't have that much in here. Ah, and you can have an option to turn them on as well. These, we haven't initialized. Crikey. Okay, this is interesting. So this is adding mappings from the ini file. And how do you, if we just set that, why do we even have this? We say this is false, and then if it's false, do the... Well, I don't understand the logic there, but we'll go with it. It's fine. Add engine defined access mappings. Oh, and if we also look at that, sorry, we're adding stuff to the player input there. Because the input reads in from the ini, so this must be like a dynamic way to add it. I'm guessing. Anyway, okay. This is the sort of thing that we want to do. So if we went to our, we've added something, right? The my player controller or something crap like that, I called it. Oh, I didn't want to stop debugging yet, so it won't exist quite yet. Okay, and then we'll also do another variant. We'll do a character. So we'll make a... Does it need to be a character, or can it just be a pawn? Let's just do it as a character for now. And we will just call it my character, because we're sinners. Okay, we'll ignore this for now. Oh, we still have this file here actually, even though we haven't stopped debugging it. So let's we can jump to the header of that as well. My player controller. Let's jump to that, and then we'll pin these up as well because we made those. And then the final thing I guess I'd want to make, we'll just make a quick class while we're at it. Then would be to make it a simple actor derivative. because actors have an input component, right? So let's just call this my actor for now. Borada. Does it still say Borada? I thought I changed my title. No, I'm streaming tonight, Merlin, just for because I missed Sunday. And I've only just started doing the monthly game dev challenges again, so I kind of don't want to like fall off the wagon. Okay, that has been created, and then I guess can we make a component? No, we can make a custom input component, maybe. Let's see. I don't know if it would be of any use, but let's just make it for now. No problem, Merlin. How was your day, mate? Okay, good. So I've made those classes now. The one thing I was going to say earlier. Where was that? This thing. Okay, there we go. Sorry, we're just talking to some workmates about that thing. Because it seems a little weird, really, but not bad, productive. Just made pancakes for dinner. Good job. Do you have any pictures of pancakes? We had pancakes yesterday. Okay, so let's close down this now that we've got those made. We've got to think about what we want to do. So the first thing we want to do is set up our controller. So within our my player controller, it'll be called. We want to override one function. So to do that, we're going to just right click and we're going to implement a virtual method. And then we're going to look for it. No pictures, no pancakes. Oh, flip. What a good use of flip. Okay, so we want to look for input. Where is it? Set input? No. What's the name of the function? When we set up the setup inactive? No. No. What? Set input mappings. We set them in there. Does it have anything about the code in here? Right here. Set up input player component. So is it on the character? Does it not do it via the controller? I am mistaken then. I thought the controller had bindings as well. Hold on, maybe I'm completely wrong with this then. So let's. This class is the setup player input component, right? Yeah. So is the controller. Player controller, let's go. Let's go into this. Does it have input functions in here? Build input stack. I mean, it must have a setup input component there. It is virtual as well. Allows the player. Why couldn't I find that? Okay, my player controller. Let's go back there. Let's implement virtual functions again. And let's type in setup input. Oh my gosh, please Dan, type. Input component. There we go. Okay, done. This has been implemented as well. We're going to call super on it. That's fine. So what we want to do in here is just how we've set up, or how it sets them up in the other things then. Oh, it didn't set it up in this. Default pawn, this is the one we're going to use as our reference. So let's just whack this in for now. We probably won't use all of them. So bind axis, and we give it a name. And this name needs to match up, right? I think. And then you give it a function name. So the axis and bind action. So the input component, I'm guessing there's just on the player controller, there's going to be a member called input component here. It registers it and makes one if you don't have one. Fantastic. Okay. Could create a different input component class, but still want the default bindings. Oh, okay, so you can make a new one before it. That's interesting. I think that is anyway. What's going on there? Okay, so the super will create an input component if one doesn't exist already. And then we would have input component. It's always nice to wrap these things, even though we know it's done in there. Merlin said hi if you didn't see.
Hi.
She's just over here. So now we do input component. And then we'd want to do bind action. I mean, do we have some bind actions in our, in any of these? Yeah, it's, hold on. What's the difference here between, can you, oh, I just even noticed that they're adding it to the player controllers one. So they're adding a bunch of mappings. And then they're binding the actions. So there's a few things that you can do. You can add mappings. Add mappings. And then add bindings. So the mappings are what's normally done in the options though, I'm pretty sure. Created by default. No, created by reading the ini file or the config. But this, I believe you can do additional ones or handle this by the code too. But it's just interesting, why does it add the mapping to the player controller one? Oh, it might say here, this is not, this would usually be defined in the default. Okay. Should have read that. Network protected extras is not to assume or require anything of the project it's been running. So in order to make this nice and self-contained, we manually do input bindings here. Right. Okay, so I was right with my assumption then. Okay, so it's really the binding we want to do. So let's take one of each of these as an example then. These are the default ones that I think that the game, the engine knows about. Let's chuck these in my controller class for now. Here they are. Okay, so mark that into both of these. What is this pancake talk? Well, in the UK, it's Pancake Day yesterday. So we made lots of pancakes. So, I mean, you could just adopt it if you want. So, what input? I don't know what button these are going to be. I kind of feel like I want to see... It's like a move forward. I think I need to see these. Oh, these would both be... Is the move forward an axis? I think it bloody well is, isn't it? It is. Depends on how much you pressed it. And if it's a key, it'll just get a flat 1 or 0. I think it turns it into like an analog thing. Or it takes it from being an analog to being like a digital. So... I have the same text in here, right? But this would be how you set up an axis. I think I was meaning to put it into my code, probably. Yeah, like that. We do have it. We would need to define it. Okay, so it's slightly different that you say the action of it of the released. Well, I'm just trying to remember what these would actually be, and if we looked at these, you have like right shoulder and that, but I don't know what. I think you define these. They're things like shoot and yeah, I think they are. Yeah, so I don't know if there's actually default ones when you start. So we might have to just look at what they're called in our file. So we're going to quickly try and compile to make sure we've not put anything totally silly in there for now. So that's just action. Let's just call them stupid things like action 1. When it's pressed, we're going to call a function called this. We need to then make this. I don't like the underscore format, but we're going to do it anyway. Why am I doing virtual, actually? It doesn't need to be virtual here. I thought I just... That is what we're copying. Let's double check. Are these... do they need... if they're bound, is there any funkiness? Do they need to be U functions? They are not U functions. They're simple voids, but they take in a float value. If it's an axis binding, we need to keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go back into this. This is going to be fine, and then let's just preemptively do void axis move forward, and then we press in this. Like, is that what they ended up calling them in here? Just to how did they end up doing these? Move right, move forward. Oh, they use this for something else, but I guess we're like... We probably wouldn't want to do anything with those. We'd probably be working more with actions, I guess. I guess I'll see me in 10 hours. Oh dear. I mean, how big's your code base? 10. Okay, I guess you could do that, but I don't think we're actually going to do much with this. But let's implement these anyway. So create implementation. Let's go back. We'll create implementation of this as well. Okay, and we'll do something where we'd probably just log here, right? Can do that for now. I just actually a quick break back. I won't be a sec. Okay, we're back. We are back. Okay, so we're gonna check these actions. Let's bind action 1 to this. We can do our binding of move forward as well. It might stop us from moving forward, which is a bit of a shame. Well, if we consume it, we will. But I guess if we're not setting it to be consumed, I think it may consume by default. And I did write something about the consume input equals false. So you can do something like that. So let's do that for now. I'd like to maybe do a couple. So let's just do 3 actions. So with action 1, 2, and 3, we'll go ahead and make these functions as well. I'm going to try and use this class syntax and see whether or not it works for us. Okay, 2 and 3. Go ahead and implement these quickly. There we go. Okay, and then we want to just do a crikey, I've forgotten the log command. Is it debug log? I really forgotten. Is it this? Crikey. I don't think it is. Let's just do log temp search. Someone else would have used log temp, right? Ah, UE log. That's the bloody. I think that's Unity talk. UE log, not EU. Log temp and then the type of it. So you can have like log there. That's not a problem. Okay, so we can whack this down these. So we can say action, this would be like move forward pressed with value of. And then we can pull in that it's a float, so you'd use the D, I think it is. Extra argument will be concatenated into that. Okay, so this, let's just get this compiling to begin with and running, and then we can push it out into the other classes to see how they overlook each other and stuff. Okay, what are the issues we've got so far then? Ah, yeah, we didn't actually bind it to the right function. So let's try that. Okay, we're still failing because of what? Is it because of the my character column before template? I think it. Oh, hang on, did it say my character is an issue? Did we accidentally change anything in here? Is your character in, or by it automatically does this as well? I'm unsure. Oh, I think we need to generate project files. Something we forgot to do. Maybe. Perhaps. Let's give that a go and see what happens. Let's try and do this one up. Okay, we're still getting the same issue. I'm trying to understand what's caused this. I'm not really getting much. The only thing I can think that would be causing it would be what I've done in here with this class stuff. So let's just replace these for now. Right, and then let's see what happens. So I don't think I've actually done anything. Yeah, it keeps just failing instantly now. Is it because I'm building... Is it actually missing? I haven't typed anything in here. I haven't edited this file. We're gonna have to just clean and rebuild. Oh, I haven't cleaned it. Let's just try and rebuild, see what happens. Sorry, not the most exciting stuff, but it's part of it, unfortunately. Compiling, as Kappa knows. Okay, we are still getting the same issue? Yeah. I don't know. Have I changed something in my character that I've just was unaware of? I can't undo in here. Oh, was there an A up here? No way was there an A up there. was that? That was great. We like to remember these moments. So it gave a really weird error with the A back in there. I just want to see it again. Okay, so that we should be able, if we just get rid of this, save it, launch it, cracky, get back to where we were. Okay, so let's go to our settings, shall we? So we want to go to project settings and we go to input. And this is where we want to set things up. So if I just scroll this down into project settings, just so we get a little screeny of this for our little notes. Don't know why the notes are little all of a sudden, but let's whack them in here. It was down here, wasn't it, where I was saying this is where you set up the bindings. Okay, happy with that. So let's have a look at it, shall we? So what do we have? We have action mappings and axis mapping. So we want to make action mapping action 1, I think I called them, right? So is there just one we can go with? Should we just do them like that for now? That'll be easy, right? Action 2. And then we finally go for action 3. Like so. So I'm guessing this is where you can do your chord based stuff. I wonder if the chord stuff probably gets processed as a priority. The axis mappings, I don't know if this is where you would do like your move forward and stuff like that. Or it'd be W, right? Should we try and put it on different keys as a test, or? Because I don't know if they're done as the default buttons. So how about we go for what would be a similar shape? Let's go for IJKL. Let's do this. So this would be I. Actually, no, it wouldn't. Hang on. No. Oh, how do you do this actually? Hold on. Because this would be. Is this how I've done it? Yeah, it is. You do the buttons. If we were using a controller, we would set it. So let me just. Can you just type keyboard? No, it's such a pain to find stuff. Keyboard. It's easier to actually click through. Hey there, Corpse. How you doing, mate? So. Okay. Yeah, and so K would be the backwards one. So we'd times this by minus, right? And then we'd add another one in here, which would be for our alt. Is it? I can't remember. Is it right or left? We can have a look at one of the existing ones to give us a hint on that. Move right. Yeah, move right. We should probably call these alt move forward. And then we'll call this an alt move right. So L would be to the right. Like so. And then we'd probably want to put in J as our minus. So we can go left. Hello, the Uno Maestro. Yes, I'm less grumpy than I was. I was very grumpy at the start of this. I couldn't concentrate for buggery, and I was trying to read through engine code and getting confused. Okay, so this sets up our what input do we press. I guess the one bit I'm confused about is if we want to rebind these. So that's something, but we'll look at those later. I guess that's where you could dynamically adjust the axis mappings. We did see something about setting up mappings in the code, right? So we'll save that. This should mean now that if we make our game mode, so where's our game mode? Oops, we don't want to go to the class of it. That was my mistake, sorry. How do I want to do this? We want to go to the actual content. I don't even have a blueprint folder yet. Let's jump into that. Your pure and joyful presence. I'm already cheered up, around 4,000,000%, if I'm being blunt. You have radiated my day. We want to make a game mode, so it'll be a blueprint class of our all class my game, or it's probably called minigame game mode base. Select BP my game mode. I know that my game mode is horrible. I don't care. This is just a practice project, completely messing around. So here we want to make our player controller be the one that we made, my player controller instead. And our character. Do we have a character in here? Default ball class. Would be my character. Save. And then we need to choose this game mode. So we go into our project settings and we want to go into modes and levels or something like that. Levels and modes, levels, modes, maps and modes. In here we can choose our BP, my game mode. There we go. So now it will use my game mode. So it should put me in a character when we start. Okay, so we can't move because we haven't bound anything with that. But if I press 1, we want to know, is it logging stuff? Ooh. Okay, so I guess it's continually polling the axis. What if I press I? Move forward. Oh, hang on. Move forward is going to be... Oh, does this only happen... No, is it continually happening? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so with the axis, it reads the axis value. You definitely don't want to be doing that. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's update this so we don't completely spam this. So we could do something like if value is not equal to 0, then we can go ahead and log. So we'll see any negative values and stuff as well. But we also probably want to bind this to alt move forward, right? We can go ahead and set up a few of these now, actually. So we have our alt move forward, we have our alt move, and then we have our alt move right. Actually, we don't need 4 of them. My mistake. We can get rid of these. And then we want to go ahead and make a spare one of these, which will be for the move right. We'll do the exact same logic in here for now. Okay, let's do that for now. We can hot reload that now. Beautiful, yeah. And these I made it all. They're both completely unique as well. This one is very different to this one. Very different. Okay, this time. We are in our output log. We're not getting it. We can move this log up now. Right, so now if we click back here and I press W, we get nothing. If I press I, there we go. Get a value of 1. Is it because I need to... Is truncating it? I don't know. But there we go. Okay, we're getting 1, 2, 3 at least, which is what I wanted to detect. So that's a good start. I'm interested in it. Let's try and debug this just for a second. Okay, what is the value? I mean, no, let's fit it in here because we want to see what the value is when it actually gets into there. So when we press I, which is our alternative control scheme, what is the value? It is 1. So why does this print 0? Is it because we're trying to... Oh yeah, I don't know actually. I don't know. Because if we press F5 now, see it says value of that? Do we need to change it to float or something like that? I thought D was for the... Maybe that's for whole integer. What's the concat for a float? Or do you have to... yeah, let's just Google that quickly because I don't know the answer. Okay, this might have something in here. Int. So that works with an int using is there a float in here? Oh, come on. Should we just try F? See if it actually does anything, shall we? I know partly. Half of it is I've not been bothered to change it, but the second thing is it's actually fine. Right, is this going to change now? No. Ah! This is upsetting. I need to know this. This is important though, right? what is the concatenation thing for adding in a float and specifying the amount of characters? Do you do it with like zeros or something? Okay, so let's just write printing float in UE log. Yeah, I am. I thought it's F. It says here, is it? Float. Oh, hang on. What's the actual numbers in there? See, this thing says logging a float. You say your float and then percentage F. I'm just getting 0. That's what is bothering me at the moment. It could be actually a relaunch issue. Let's just quickly rule that out. Because I've debugged it and it's a value of 1 for sure. So you're saying that's 5 characters, including the decimal, to precision of 2 past the decimal, left padded with zeros. Okay, that's cool. Move right. Oh yeah, move right still has one. You're right. But this one, I was just doing the move forward and testing it. Let's just quickly test. Yeah. Okay. There we go. That's fine. It was just. Do you know what's more interesting? Is the one with D actually still works? You can just do it as a... Okay, anyway, let's learn. Let's do our new learning thing. So we want a precision of 1. Oh no, we want a total of... Can you just do 0.2F like this? If I don't care how many... It can take as many numbers as I want to the left of the decimal, but on the right of the decimal, I want there to be just 1. I think I have seen this before, actually. So let's give that a go. Again, maybe this isn't something that gets... Printing line columns. Okay, no, that makes sense, actually. Let's just see if this worked first off. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, dude. It's really helpful of you to come in with that. So let me just put a comment in here so I remember. How you doing anyway, Papa? How are you enjoying the fatherhood as well? Dipping into Unreal Environment courses for my hiking game. Ooh, I remember your hiking game. That was lovely. Will we have more fathers in here in 9 months now? No, me and Elisha will not be having sex until we are wed and we've finished our time on Christian camp and learnt all about... No, we wouldn't plan to have kids anyway. So yeah, we were going to try 02. I'm interested, why do you have to put 02? Is that pad it with zeros? Is that what you're saying? Or do you just have to... Could it just be 2? 0 rather than spaces? Okay. So you could just have 2. Yeah, no, you're right there. I think I'd rather that, so we're going to go for that. So let's go ahead and recompile this. Well, I'm getting towards the end of stream time as well. Now that's a fair point, partly. Oh, we'll have a... We'll see, I guess, right? I don't see it with a space ahead, but it could be... It could be because due to reloading, perhaps. But who knows? Let's just reload that back up anyway, and then we'll get back into it. So our plan now was to look at something from a lower level. I get something that is lower than that. So if we go to our notes, we wrote about this input stack. You're able to see that... Actually, might as well check this quickly. No, okay, the space doesn't seem to take into account there. Okay, that's interesting. What if we end up doing zeros? Will that override one of the zeros, I wonder? Okay, so there was an order that I wrote down. Here, actors, controllers, level scripts, and then pawns. So if we were to write one onto our pawn now, or our character, it should not take priority. Forces the sign if you use that. Okay, let's see how this one works. The zeros, it doesn't seem to do the leading zeros either. I like the plus you can do to force a sign as well. That's useful. Okay, so let's also go into our character then. So my character, we've already got this defined. And we're going to go ahead and do if player input component. And we'll go ahead and do some definitions in a similar fashion that we did here. We might as well copy and paste them if I'm honest with you. Let's just do the actions instead of the axis for now. Let's go into this. Whack these in. And if we use this my class thing, or this class that we learned, then we could literally just copy past it without until, which is actually quite nice. So I'm gonna do that. We're gonna go into my play controller. We're gonna use this this instead. Okay, good. And then we want to copy pasta these into here. And then we will just implement these. I'd like if you could select multiple at this stage and it'll implement them all. But there we go. Okay, and then we want to do the same sort of definitions as we had in these. Character. Okay, and we will go ahead and whack these out for action 2 and 3 as well. Okay, good. So what we should find at the moment is I don't think any of this will be detected if we just start like this. So let's compile that and try. Oh, it's total number of character. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You're right. You're right, good sir. I should have changed those to be. Let's sort it out now. You're completely correct. Forward. Actually, no, it's included in the decimal, so the 5 makes sense now where you said 5 initially. Thank you, partly, for your patience with me when I don't properly listen to you. Okay, there you go. We have the... There you go, the plus and the minus. You like that? Anyway, right, so we have 1 on a player controller. 1, 2, 3 on the player controller at the moment. Excellent. Okay, so let's go to our player controller. And we want to not bind them. So we're going to try this consume input thing and see if it does both of them. Well, we'll do 2 things. First off, action 3 won't be defined on any of them now. On my controller. We can keep that in, that doesn't matter. And then this one is going to have a B consume input is false. It's by default true. So let's compile that and let's see if we get a result as we expect. So 1 should be controller, 2 and 3 should be character. Apparently. That'd be great. 1 is on the player controller. 2 is on the player controller and the character. I was wrong with. I knew that, but I said it wrong earlier. And then 3 is just the character. Excellent. So you start to see how this this stack works. We know that controllers are above pawns on the stack. Oh, excuse me. And you can actually do one in the level blueprint as well, because that is in the stack order. So if we go to our level blueprint and we try and do a should we just go on 1? So on 1 pressed, we want to just do a log. Is it just print? I guess we'll do print string for now. 1 action 1 pressed on level blueprint. I don't think, can you actually do your mappings? Event for 1 key bound to the input action 1. You can do that. I'm interested in would both of these. How this would work. Level blueprint. Okay, and we want to do these for the others as well. Let's just get these in quickly. Oh, 2 would be this instead. And action 2. Right there. Like that. And then we will just go ahead and make them from scratch over here. So 3. Get that in and action 3. Go over here. Okay, so we'll copy those across and whack those into here. We need to change the strings as well, but we'll do that right at the end. So actually, key 3, we want to do that. Action 3, and then by here is 2 and 2. Okay, happy. Compile, save. Shall we see what happens? So the way the stack should go is controller, level blueprint, character. So if we press 1, we just get the play controller because it consumes it, remember? If we go for 3, we should just get the level blueprint. Yes, and you can see but both of them have come up. We have both the action and the key. Interestingly, the action came first. Mildly interesting. Great, okay, and then the third one, if I press 2 now, that should do the controller and the level blueprint, but not the pawn, because the level blueprint will consume, I think. Correct. No. Yes. Correct. Okay. Is there a way that we can make it not consume, I wonder? I don't know if there is. Ah. Okay. That's great. Have you tried randomly clicking? Manny Frog, long time no see. How have you been? Crikey, I remember from the charity stream, right? Although, was that the charity stream the year before? I'm trying to remember now. I think it might have been. Yeah, it was. We you missed this year's charity or the 2020 charity stream, but yeah, well, I appreciate it. I remember writing a bauble on my tree with your name on it. Yeah, we did even better this last year. So the first year we did amazing and we raised £1,400. This year we raised 2,300, and it ended up afterwards. Someone else had donated for the jam stuff as well, so it got to around £2,500, which was crazy good. Which is why now we permanently have webcam. Now, I guess it makes sense though, right? When these are members of a binding thing. Quite nice that like it makes these dynamically based on the inputs that you set up in here. So because I've called them this, it will make a function or an event, a blueprint implementable event for that, which is quite nice. See, I didn't even know. It's nice actually. I'm glad we've seen this. So if we go, I'm interested actually. If we do consume input on both of them, right? I think yeah, hold on. What do we want to do? No, so what I was going to say is, would it consume the input? It doesn't consume it on the same input layer. And that's correct. When we went through the code, it said it did that, didn't it? It collects all of the bindings and their delegates, and then it will consume them. There was a mustache at some point. I didn't grow the mustache this last November. My girlfriend was pleased on that. Apparently, it's not a good look. Who knows why? I think it was dashing. Okay, so if we wanted these to be pass-throughable then we could set both of these to be consume input off. So then 2 should pretty much have our everything on it then, right? So if we press 1, we still get that. 2, we then have player controller, level blueprint twice, and on character. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, I'm glad that we took a little bit of time to look into this, actually. I think there's a few good-looking mustaches these days. But it tends to be on more macho men. Okay, so the final test we want to do then is this actor stuff, right? So if we make my actor, shall we have a blueprint of it? Let's make a blueprint of it to begin with. So we're going to make a new blueprint class of my actor. Great name, I know. So BP my actor. Okay, there it is. Beautiful thing. Shall we give it some form of visualizer? Isn't there like a sprite or That's where I'm trying to think. What's the thing with the default bloody head? The little dinosaur head thing. Indeed, Manny. Is it use a sprite component, is it? A paper sprite? It's not exposed for normies. I swear I've done it that way before. Alright, well, fine. Well, you know what? You're having a bloody cube instead. Yeah, you have that. Don't blame me. We got our cube. Wonderful. Okay, so we're not going to do anything with this, but we're going to look for a member called input. No. Okay, so there is something we've when we did our research on actors, which is auto receive input or something along that. So let's go to a actor and look for something to do with receive input, auto receive input. This. Now, is auto receive input exposed? It is. Edit anywhere. It's under the category of input. And it's on our actor. Hang on, edit anywhere. Yeah, that should mean that it could be blueprint and instance. So why can we not find it? Oh, it's because we're on the cube. Silly us. There we go. Input. Danny, here it is. Auto receive input. Now the player thing, this is essentially for which player controller that it should go via. Oh, automatically registers this actor to receive input from a player. Yeah. Okay, so if we compile that, that should mean that this now will have its input component activated. So we need to add something to the bindings of this, right? So let's go to my actor. Come on. I made a my actor. It exists. Where is it? My gosh, this makes me sad. Hello there, Pomo. How you doing, dude? Let's generate the project files on this. Oh, was it a decal, was it? Maybe we'll get the dragon head in. We'll get it back going now. Right, this. My actor. What? I made it. I swear I made. It doesn't have the new classes I've made here even. Should we close down the editor? The Visual Studio. We've done this, right? Generate Visual Studio project files. Just let's make sure it goes up. And we'll reload the solution. I think I said ignore and then it didn't ask me if I want to reload the solution again. That may have been my mistake. Perhaps. Oh, excuse-moi. Ah, there we go. Look at this. We've got our classes now. Okay, so in our begin play, we can just do it in begin play, I guess. Why did it jump to my character when I went into super? Because actor doesn't derive from that silly alt G. Okay, so what we want to do here is get if input component. So every actor has an input component, which is something I forgot about. You see in here, we're in the actor class. If the input is enabled, which it should be. Then we want to go ahead and we'll do our bindings like we've done in the other ones, right? So we'll keep it exactly the way that we've been doing it. So let's go into my character. We'll whack these together. Jump into my actor now. Over here, let's pin you up as well. My player controller, my character as well. Great. Let's whack these in. We don't need to change anything, but we will go ahead and implement these functions. I don't think you can create them from here, can you? You can introduce variable, but yeah, you can't quite do it that way around. So let's go into this. We'll copy pasta these. Go into my actor. Go into the header of these. we're going to deal with this because it makes me sad. I hate having multiple publics and protected. Okay. And then we want to implement these. Okay, sweet. So we've done those. We'll take the same implementation, which is just a little text printout. Let's change this one. Action pressed on actor. How about and then should we combine it with a name? So if we get the S and then we just do a comma and then like get name, is it get name? Is get name an actor function? Something like that, isn't it? It was billboard. That is the one I was thinking of. I think it's get name, but I might be wrong. We'll see what happens here. So let's change these to 2 and 3. And they're all going to consume, so they should, because they should take over here. So we're going to compile and build this if we can. If this get name is actually legitimate syntax. Nope. Okay, you can do this. I'm just trying to remember what it bloody well is. Let's have a little quick look, shall we? Okay, actor. There's a better one. The actor dot get name. Wait, have I got to do this dot get name? Or have I got to dereference it? Did I not look at the error? Let's actually look at the error in here, shall we? I'm wondering, what if we just do this? Let's see if that changes things. I don't think we shouldn't have to do this. Yeah, there we go. That did it. It's the same thing. If you got a string, you got to turn it into like a char array effectively or something, if I remember correctly. It's a bit one of the weird things that you try not to think too much about. Okay, so the idea now is that this should take priority. If we put one of these in the level, it should take priority. And then what I'd like to do is to bind to a key a way to spawn one of these actors. And then that should, every new spawned one should take a priority because that's the most recently activated. That's the logic we're hoping to get. Let's go to our content browser. Go into our blueprint of my actor. Should we give it a name? My actor 1. Actually, no. Let's give it a better name, shall we? Steve. There you go, Steve. You can get in there. Wonderful. I'll be having a good time there, Steve. Alright. So, I can't move, but I can, if I press F8, we can see Steve is next to me. Don't you worry. And we want to now look at the log while we press buttons. So, can you see actor Steve is hogging the input? Excellent. So, what we could look at then is what would happen if we added 2 of these? I mean, we could just, maybe I shouldn't call it, I should give it a name outside of the blueprint as well. Stuff it. Let's just make a second one. It's second in the tree, and we're just going to call you Frank. Okay, so now you're first in the tree due to alphabetic ordering. Let's see which one will take priority. We're not in the right output log, I'm afraid. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so I think Frank is taking priority by the looks of things. Uh-oh, there we go. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, Frank is taking priority. Is it because he was the most recently added? There's one way to check that. We're going to add a new one, and this is going to be called something Harry, E, F, G, H, I, J. Let's call him Jim. It's more in the middle. Actor Jim goes in there. Let's go. Is it going to be Jim or is it going to be Frank? It's Jim. Okay, so the most recently added to the scene, which is interesting. Okay, because it probably has some ID under the surface, which relates to the order in which they were added to the scene. Should we write some notes about what we've learned then? Experimenting. Okay, so I set up a the following to bind to functions or actions. Action 1, action 2, and action 3. So we had a player controller, a player character, we had a level blueprint, and then we had ourselves a custom actor. We found that the rules of the input stack were respected. We could use the .b consume input equals false to stop it from consuming an input per I guess mapping. I guess it'd be action mapping on the blueprint node. Binding node. Maybe the binding node is fine. You can click on the node and check the bool to prevent consuming. Consuming is on by default for in both native and blueprint. Okay. We also learned, as far as actors are concerned, when adding to the level not at runtime, the actor that takes priority will be the most recently added actor to the scene. This is kind of what it implied before as well, right? This is probably going to be the same at runtime as well. So we've got two things I want to check before we wrap up. One is going to be checking if we can do a consume input overall. That would... So let's get rid of these. Let's save this. And then let's make, at the moment, if we press 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. We get the inputs goes through... Oh, we don't have any binding. Yeah, we don't have any binding on the player controller. So action 3 slips down to the level blueprint. Whereas action 2 will go via the controller and the blueprint and the character. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to set our player controller input component. I wonder if we could set it by our own... No, we don't have a blueprint version of it. Let's do it via code. So if we go to my player controller, set up input component. Maybe we can do it here where we say input component block input equals true. So this should stop anything going below, but it should only block... I think it only blocks things that you're bound, or does it not? That's what we're going to find out. So 1 should still just go to play controller. 2 now only goes to the play controller. What about 3? 3 does nothing. Okay, so it literally will block everything. Okay, good. Is there a way to only block, only consume what you've bound? I guess that's the default thing, right? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. So let's add that to the document. If we want to block input on the entire input component, we use the following. This will block any input components below the current one on the stack from being processed, regardless of if you've bound a key to an action. It doesn't just block the actions you've bound. Which obviously it makes sense when you think about it, because that is what, when you're binding, it actually does. All right, so that was one of the things I wanted to test, right? The second, what did I say was the second thing we wanted to test? Oh, adding one at runtime. So let's stop. Let's go to our level blueprint, shall we? And we can maybe just do a quick spawning bit of logic in here. So when we press, what button are we going to use for this? Shall we just use Z? So when Z is pressed, spawn actor from class, probably that one. So the class we want to spawn is going to be a my actor, Steve. Wonderful. Spawn transform, where are we going to spawn it? I guess we can promote to variable. It can just be a 0, 0, 0. That's fine by me. I don't really mind. Default, always spawn, ignore collisions. Instigator. Do you have to have an instigator? The pawn responsible the gameplay offense caused by this actor. Oh, so when you make it, would it just be this? You can't do that, can you? I mean, maybe you don't need to set them. Let's compile. Okay, yeah, you don't have to set them. It'll default to itself, I'm assuming. Okay, so let's save. Let's it's gonna add one called Steve, right? So when we add one in now, let's find our Steve. We're gonna put Steve in, but we're gonna give him a different name. This one's gonna be called Adam. Fantastic. So when we start to play now, we're gonna press actually, first off, we need to turn off that consume input, because that's going to change the logic somewhat, right? So let's just comment that out and recompile this. Save all of this while we're waiting as well. I'm glad this stream has turned into a productive one. I was really struggling at the start, but I think I was knackered and looking at complicated code. But now I'm starting to prove what I've learned. It's feeling good, and I feel next week could be good as we start looking into how can we make stuff to do this. Like my thought on this is that we will just spawn an actor that does nothing when we want to consume an input, but we're gonna have to create a special type of actor where you're gonna initialize it with a bunch of inputs, and I think those inputs will then be you will make all those bindings when you initialize it, perhaps. Okay. Might. Why not mate? Why would you change that? Okay, so Adam is in the level. We press 1. Let's go to our log. So, Adam is consuming at the moment. Cheeky Adam. But now we're going to press Z. And Steve has taken over. And now we're going to spawn another one. And the second Steve has come in. So, do we want to destroy? And it should fall back to the previous one before that. I think we can do a little bit of logic with that, right? So we want to add them to an array. So we want to add this. Let's promote this to a variable. This is going to be called our Steve array. Okay, and then when we press X, I guess. Let's find our keyboard. Oh, I guess X shows up in everything. Let's go to input manually then. Input action. Oh, this would be keyboard events, right? And we want to find X in here. Okay, so when X is pressed, then we want to get from this array. So first let's get actor. I guess we're getting a copy out of this. No, I guess we want to just get the length of it. So if the length, I guess we'll get the length, right? So we'll do a branch on this. So if the length is greater than 0, then we want to go ahead and do this. And then we want to check the length -1. We want to remove the element. Remove index. And we want to remove the last one added. So we're making it into a little like stack thing. Hey Bizario, diolch yn fawr chi am ddefnyddio'r gorchymyn Cymraeg. Balrog, croeso i'r stream, fi'n gobeithio chi'n iawn. A ni'n defnyddio tân. That crept up on me. Mae hon yn ofnadwy. Dwi ti ddim yn heiddi bod yn y chat yma, goodbye. Iawn, okay, so awn ni cael yma, a awn ni wneud tynnu 1. A wedyn awn ni fynd mewn i yna. Dylse hynna gweithio fi'n meddwl. Awn ni just wneud print bach. Removed. Removed a Steve. There you go. Dyna be mae'n fynd i wneud. A wedyn mae draw ma ni'n fynd i cael wedi ychwanegu Steve. Allen ni wneud concatenation? Append. So dyn ni eisiau... Ni eisiau hyn fynd mewn i yna. Great. A wedyn, awn ni cael un fath o beth yma. So, awn ni cael... Dyn ni ddim eisiau'r tynnu 1. So, os ni'n gwneud concat again, dyn ni eisiau removed Steve, a wedyn awn ni tynnu mewn y rhif gwreiddiol, sef drama am yr index. Dylse hynna gweithio'n ffain i ni, fi'n meddwl. Okay, compile, save. Gwasgu play. So, ni'n gwasgu inputs ni mewn. Yn gyntaf, mae Adam yn tynnu yr input yna. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We're having a raid. A minute of Welsh has run out. You're lucky. I can greet the raiders, the artifacts. Hello there, Portal Gaming. Hello there, Sparky Pugwash. Hello, Durian Grey. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Wabies 1. Aries 4174599. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Thank you, Instafluff. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for blessing the rains down in Africa. I'm doing the wrong raid call. Sorry, Fluffy Raid. Should we do the wah? Wah! No, this is not my. I'm not InstaFluff. We need to remember that. So, Lentil Stew Dragon, you asked a good question. You said, Dan, is that because I was talking Welsh, I'd imagine? But then you said, you do make a lot of notes. How do you manage to look them up again if you need to refer to it? I try and condense them all. So the notes is part for me to kind of stop and try and reflect on what I've taken in. A lot of the note taking is for the in the moment learning. But my Google Docs is... I've recently gone through and I've... where are we? So I've kind of... This thing. I kind of make notes like this and then I try and condense them into this. So then I have my compendium where I try and chuck everything in as I learn it. So I've got stuff on input in here, which I looked at initially whilst I was starting to do my research into this. That's how we knew about this be consume input and things like that. But I'm going to add to this once I'm done. But there are things such as our our strings. We learned a bit about debugging, printing out floats to different decimal precisions and stuff today. So I could add that into here, for example. So it's that's what I would do. But otherwise, like I can, if I remember I did something, like I remember there was a Dan Real Engine document before. That is the one that where I went through how I learned, like what thing kind of resources I used when I was learning Unreal initially. So like I try and keep it in mind. But yeah, it's not easy to memorize everything. And I often refer back if I know something exists rather than read through everything again. Just so I'm ignoring you, Uno Maestro. InstaFluff, I am ending the stream soon, just so you know, I'm afraid, dude. I very much do appreciate the raid, and I appreciate having everyone here as well. But it is 10 o'clock for me, and I said around 5 minutes before you streamed that I'm wrapping up in a sec. Apologies. But yeah, we've done almost 3 hours, and I'm streaming tonight to make up for Sunday. I'm streaming in the mornings now. I'm doing a quick half hour to an hour before work. So I'm streaming, InstaFluff will probably still be up at that time. I'm streaming at around 7 a.m. UK time. So I'm doing that as my daily devs, and then I am doing my Sunday stream is a more sociable hour. But they were only short streams in the evenings anyway, and with Elisha here at the moment as well, and her streaming evenings, it just makes sense to me. I'm up earlier. Like, the intention was we'd both get up early, but Elisha likes to get a full amount of sleep, whereas I prefer to have the same wake-up time, you know? Indeed, Sparky. She's a good egg, isn't she? She's a good egg. Anyway, so we were just looking at spawning Steves. A glorious task. So we have... what we're looking at is not super exciting. We have... This is probably too small to see on stream. Oh, and it's behind my camera. You guys can't even flip and see. Okay, down here, we have a thing that says action 1, 2, and 3. So when I press 1, 2, and 3, we know that there's an actor called Adam that is consuming that input at the moment. There's Adam. But what happens is if I was to press Z... We've added Steve 0 to the mix. So Steve, we don't. I think Steve, if we F8, we might be able to see Steve. There's Steve. Hi, Steve. So Steve is just living there. But now Steve has been added. Steve will steal the inputs. You can see that 1, 2, and 3 are being picked up by Steve now. But what's interesting is if we then get rid of it. Uh-oh, did that work? We've removed Steve. We should be able to press again and nothing happens. Great. But now it should go back to Adam. Ooh. Oh, I removed it from the list, but I didn't just... I know what I did wrong. He's still there, isn't he? I just removed him from my list of Steves. Silly Dan. Alright, that's the problem. In here, we removed it from the list, but we actually need to destroy it as well. So, remove index, but can we actually... We need to get it. So I think what we might actually need to do is to use a get. I don't like that it's a copy. But it's a pointer, actually. It's a copy of a pointer. So it's still going to point to the same thing. So if we dereference it and... Okay, so we want to get the same index we're using here. Let's move this back a bit and we'll move this forward a bit. So if we whack that across instead, we first want to get it. We can then destroy it. And then we'll destroy... do we need to cast an actor? I guess we would do... Isn't there is valid? Yeah, we're just doing... We know it... We're just doing it is valid. Because we know that there's Steve's already. So we can do it is valid on this. Let's just move all of this stuff across for now. Spaghetti. We've done all the rest of our code's been in CPP. We just wanted to test something out to get Steve spawned in quickly. So let's go ahead and whack this in here. So if it is valid, which it should be, we then want to go ahead and destroy it. Actor. That's the one. Like that. And we'll do it in there. And then what we want to do is we want to remove it. Because it's destroyed, we won't be able to remove the actor by what it is anymore. So we could have even removed it first, but as we have the index, we can just go ahead and take the same number and whack it into there. Okay, I am fine with that. Alicia is moving to the UK. Indeed, we're hoping everything, that is the plan, and it should go that way, I'm hoping. If they do a UK con soon, yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice for sure. I think it's going to be a while until there's cons and stuff going on again, though, which is a bit of a shame. But at the same time, what's going on in the world is a bit of a shame too. But InstaFluff, you could come over. Maybe the TwitchCon will be in London. After, I don't know if they'll redo it in Amsterdam. They probably should do. Hang on, you're saying I make lovely food. We said meet at a con, not Dan's going to cook us dinner. What's going on? You've got yourself a free dinner out of this somehow, Sparky. Okay, I think this will fix our Steve issue. Okay, let's get it small so people can see what's going on in the chat again. So, first off, we press 1, 2, 3. Adam's in consuming it. We then spawn a Steve. 1, 2, 3. Steve is taking it. Steve 0, that is. We're then going to remove Steve. And now we press 1, 2, 3. And it goes back to Adam. Excellent. Yeah, that is proven that it's worked how we want it to. So we can add a bunch of Steves. And then we can remove them. And Adam will take them. And yeah, you can take little off by little. Yeah. So it is indeed by order of activation when they were added to the scene. I wonder if we can you, without deleting it and adding it, make one take priority? That would be our next thing to kind of look into. But we've had a very useful stream today. This has been good. Block it. Okay, so the next thing is adding dynamically actors with inputs dynamically to the scene dynamically at runtime will mean they are now the highest priority. No, I'm not really explaining this. Follows the same rule. The last one to be, the priority follows the most recently added actors. Okay, this is just going to shift up to where we were talking about it up there. All right, good. Honest con, well, honest and con, it seems like an oxymoron sort of thing there, right? I'm conning you. Yeah, it's an honest con, don't worry. Also, if there's anyone you want to pass on the raid to InstaFluff, if you had any other people who was on your kind of radar, do feel free to drop some suggestions in chat because we'll go and see someone shortly. So next time I want to look into, can we update the priority of actors without removing respawning actors? That's a question for us to look at next time. We should also probably create or design a system where we can add actors with parameters to create an input consuming actor that can will be destroyed, I guess, once correct set of inputs have been input the player.